You're listening to another episode of the Young Investors Podcast, so sit back and relax as myself, Brandon, and my buddy Hamish discuss the latest in the world of finance and stock market investing. Now, a quick reminder before we get into the podcast is that nothing in this podcast should be taken on as personal financial advice. If you're ever unsure about your finances or investing and you need some help, make sure you reach out to a qualified financial advisor. But with all that said, let's get into another episode of the Young Investors Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast for 2021.
Woohoo.
Hope you guys had a good New Year's, had a good Christmas, had a good New Year's. And we had a little bit of time off. Hamish, what did you get up to in the break?
Not much at all. I took a week and I pretty much did nothing and it was great.
Me too.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. I just felt like taking a week off and not really going anywhere. Obviously caught up with some friends and family, but besides that, pretty much just kind of took a break and planned my goals for the next year. That's something I like to do in the last week of the year.
Oh, good.
Kind of just like plan out what I want to do over the next year. And that's pretty much what I did.
Good.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about that in a minute. But yeah, it's so bizarre. Just, I don't know, that's one thing I've found that now that I've started working for myself, doing YouTube or doing Profitful or whatever, because your kind of livelihood is just tied into how much effort you put in, how much work you do. I find that I just don't take breaks. Like I'm always going. It doesn't matter, if you're sick or if if you're dying for a holiday, you just kind of keep going.
Yeah. Because
at the end of the day, particularly if you're just kind of like a driven person generally, like I think we both are, you just kind of don't stop. But yeah, I kind of have to force myself. But I did the exact same thing. I said, you know what? Christmas holiday period, I'm going to take a full week off. I didn't upload anything to YouTube. I just sat on the couch and was a bum for like a week. And it was really hard to do in one aspect because I was like, when I'm playing video games or when I'm like just chilling out or watching cricket, I feel like, oh man, I could be using this time to make a video or do something. Yeah. So it kind of, I felt bad in that sense, but at the same time I was like, it actually does feel kind of good waking up knowing that I'm not going to do anything today. I'm just going to play video games, watch cricket, and just chill out.
Yeah, it is strange that when you take a break and then you kind of still feel guilty about not using your time valuably. I think because kind of what we do, there's kind of no limit on the growth that we could achieve. It's kind of just up to how much effort you put in and how much time you put into it. So yeah, whenever I take a break, obviously it's good to relax and step back for a second, but yeah, you still get that feeling that it's wrong in some way.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I'm sure we can talk about some of the 2021 goals that we've got in this podcast. We've also got some interesting stuff which is happening. We're recording this on Thursday. And wow, the US again is just on fire right now. What the hell is going on over there? So we talk a lot about that. Got some stuff to talk about Bitcoin. Man, Bitcoin is just on a surge.
Oh boy.
And a couple of bits and pieces about Tesla and a couple of things with the Trump administration too. So lots to talk about. So let's get stuck into it.
Yep. So today's episode is sponsored by Sharesight. So Sharesight is an application you can use to track the performance of your stock portfolio. So it will allow you to keep track of your capital gains, dividends. If you have dividend reinvestment plans on your ETFs or individual businesses, then it will do all of those calculations for you, regardless of what type of dividend reinvestment plan it is, whether it's a ongoing balance or whatever type it is. They'll do all of those calculations for you, which is a lifesaver. Currency gains, if you're buying shares internationally or you hold foreign currency. And then the main reason why I personally use it is when it comes to tax time. So Sharesight will generate up to 10 different reports that can be used at tax time to work out things such as your capital gains, dividend income, and more. And at the moment, you can try Sharesight for free for as long as you want. There's a free plan by heading over to sharesight.com/young investors. That's site spelled SIGHT, sharesight.com/young investors. And if you want to sign up to a paid plan to get more features, then you can also use that link to get 4 months free when you sign up to a yearly subscription. So go check that out if you're interested.
I'm going to make my next business is going to be called Sharesight. and it'll be SITE. It'll be the share site. My business model will be just getting customers from people that misspell Sharesight.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Website looks the same, does the same thing.
Yeah.
Just
same product, same service.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. But no, good to have Sharesight on as a sponsor again in 2021 for sure, and they definitely give us a good deal. So thank you very much, Sharesight, and also just a really good service, really good product.
Yeah.
So very helpful. Well, I thought first episode of 2021, we should start by making some predictions. Then we can come back at the end of the year and see how we did. So I jotted down a couple of things that I want your take on. First one, I want to know, what do you think is going to happen to the ASX in 2021? Do you think it's going to finish the year up from where it started or down? What do you reckon?
Up or down? The ASX. I'm going to say, look, I don't know up or down, but what I would say is I would guess that the market's not going to move a lot over the next year.
You reckon?
In terms of where it'll be at the end of the year. Obviously, throughout the year, it might go up and down or whatever, but I think it will be fairly close, within 5%.
So flat.
Within 5% up or down, I think.
Okay.
That's where I'll sit. How about yourself?
I'm going to be a bit of a doomsday predictor. I'm going to say down. Yeah, I'm going to say down for everything. So the next thing I wanted to say, S&P 500, does it finish 2021 up or down? Oh, actually, I didn't factor in how much money printing might happen in 2021, which might help things.
Yeah.
Because the Fed came out and they said, obviously this is talking about the S&P now, but the Fed did come out and say they're going to support everything for the next couple of years. So maybe that will just keep the market going up. Anyway, S&P 500 up or down? What's your take? What do you think?
Yeah, this one's a tricky one because such a big portion of what's driving the S&P and what drove it last year is just the 5 biggest businesses, those big tech companies.
True.
I looked at something the other day, and it was that if you took out, though, I think it was the top 5 or the top 10 biggest businesses from the S&P 500, the rest of the S&P 500 was actually down in 2020. So it's kind of a strange thing to predict what the S&P will do, because you could predict that the S&P will be up, but the majority of the businesses in it are down. So I don't know. I think probably the same thing. I would say either down or flat. I would be very, very surprised if the S&P 500 did another 15 or 20% year up.
That would be bonkers.
That would just be insane.
Surely, yeah. I was just going to say, surely there's a limit to how expensive things can get before investors wake up and go, no. I'm not paying this amount for these companies anymore. I mean, I thought we were at that already. Historically, it says that, 30 times earnings is where investors, like 30 times earnings, like that's what the market costs in relation to the market's earnings. That's when investors kind of go, whoa, this is just stretched way too far. But I think we're still over 30 at the moment. So, geez, I don't know. But yeah, I think you raise a really good point with those. It is down to those top kind of 5-10 companies, like what is it? Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google, Berkshire, Tesla now is, I think Tesla's slotted into the 6th biggest
That's just ridiculous.
Company in the S&P 500 now, which is insane.
That is insane.
And a couple of other ones. I think they're rounding out the top 10. I think it's like Johnson & Johnson, maybe a couple of other ones similar to that, but I can't quite remember. But yeah, very interesting. And you're so right. It is just a case of what happens with those big kind of techie kind of companies. Because that's what we've seen recently, or the rest of the S&P 500, the stuff that nobody ever looks at, hasn't been doing particularly well, and the S&P's been charging up just based on basically the top 10 holdings in the S&P 500.
Yeah, it is very, very strange, because if you just look at the S&P 500 as your indicator of whether you think businesses are expensive, then sure, I mean it's higher now than it was at the start of 2020, which is pretty insane. But if you look at individual businesses, as I said, there's a lot of them, most of them in the S&P 500 that are lower than they were at the start of the year. So on an individual business basis, when you don't have a weighted index that's far supported by these tech businesses, which kind of benefited quite a lot from the recession that we saw, it's kind of a unique recession where the tech business is kind of benefited substantially from that. So that's certainly driving a significant amount of the S&P 500 index, but there could very well be some opportunities opening up in individual businesses if those ones continue to fall throughout 2021.
Please, I hope so.
I hope so too.
All right, next one. Tesla stock, up or down at the end of 2021?
Yeah, I can't remember if I said it on the podcast or if I said this somewhere else, but I said that I would refrain from making Tesla predictions because I always say that it's going to be down and it goes up. So
it goes up.
I am once again going to stand by my value investing morals and say that it will be down.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I'd say down.
But if you're going,
good. I thought you were going to be a complete fence sitter. I thought I'd have to poke you with a stick to get an answer out of you there, but no, that's all right. Yeah, I'm going to say down as well. I think, to be honest, in Tesla's case, even if they deliver 1 million vehicles in 2021, I mean, that's still, the stock even then would just be horrifically overvalued. So I'd have to say follow value investing principles and say that I reckon it's 12 months. In a 12-month period, the bubble will probably burst at some point. But who knows? Maybe it'll come down and then bounce straight back up. So hard to predict. All right, what about Bitcoin?
Bitcoin.
Up or down?
Oh, down.
Down. I reckon that's an easier one to predict because it's just up at its all-time high at the moment.
Yeah.
I reckon down.
I guess we'll probably run through a little bit more about Bitcoin in a little bit, but it's going through the same insanity that was happening in 2017 and that didn't end very well. So I would be very confident on that one. Out of all of these predictions, that would be my most confident. As always, I have to give my my little asterisks here with these predictions. I have no idea what's going to happen.
No, we don't have any idea.
I have no idea.
It's just fun to make predictions because we don't know what's going to happen, but it's just fun to predict. See if we by chance just get it right.
Yeah, exactly. And then we can make a video about it. Look, I was right. So
yeah, exactly. That was our strategy last year, wasn't it? We said both. Like 1 week we'd say a bull case and the next week we'd say a bear case.
Yeah.
So we can refer back to it and say, well, we'll just use whatever turned out to be true.
Yeah, exactly. We just say a whole lot of different things and then we can refer people back to when we were right.
Yeah.
And
we'll have a 2 out of 100 strike rate, but when we hit those 2, it'll look really spectacular, the prediction.
Oh dear.
Anyway. So you've been doing much thinking about goals for 2021. What are some of your goals?
Yeah, that's good. Over the past week, that's kind of where I kind of just reflect on what happened last year and see what I want to do next year. I don't set that many goals. I like to set 3 goals. Just to keep the number of goals really simple. And these are kind of like year goals. And then basically what I do is I break down each month. I will set up basically systems that will allow me to get to those goals, because I think it's good to have not just a goal like I want to be at 150,000 subscribers, because in a way that's kind of partly out of our control, but it's good to have a goal and a system. So it's actually, I think if you have a goal, like one of my goals, for example, is to reach 150,000 subscribers by the end of next year. But what's actually important to achieving that is the system I put in place for creating regular content and creating better content and that sort of thing. So I have the goal, which is subscriber goal and views goal. And then month by month, I'll kind of set up how I'm going to achieve that by actual actions. And then my other...
that sounds good.
Yeah. Do you have a subscriber or view goal? Is that something you put out there, or...
To be honest, once I hit 100,000, I kind of felt fulfilled on that front, So I don't really mind. I think this year, some of my goals are... Again, I'm not I'm a bad goal setter. I'm the first to admit I am not very good at setting goals. I kind of just have, what I want to achieve some point down the track, and then I'm kind of just driven naturally. So I just keep working towards those goals, and I don't really stop until I achieve them. But yeah, I think that my focus, and again, this is nothing I've put hard numbers to, because again, it's one of those things that's so out of your control in some aspects, but I just want to try and increase views. Views is going to be where it's at. And I think that that's probably the number one metric I'll follow, just because, subscribers generally just comes alongside the views. Like if you get more views, you get more subscribers kind of thing.
Yeah.
So in terms of YouTube, I think I'm just going to focus on the view side of things and hopefully get more people watching and make videos that are more appealing to a wider audience and that sort of thing. But yeah, I want to achieve some decent growth for YouTube in 2021 because I also want to put out, some of my goals for YouTube are to hire like a video editor or a camera person and a social media manager. So in order for me to be able to do that and pay those people, I do need to see quite a substantial amount of growth in my channel. So they're kind of some of the things I'm working towards, but they're just kind of the loose in the back of my head kind of things I'm trying to achieve as opposed to writing them down. I should do what you're doing is put some systems in place to make sure that I can, structured work towards those goals. But I don't know. I'm just bad with goals.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here like I'm some genius around goals. I've just sort of
your structure, your method's much better than mine.
I have the best goal structure. No, but I've recently, obviously, over the past week, just kind of dove into the different ways that people set goals and what is a good thing, what are good things to focus on when setting goals so that they actually are realized and they're not just this kind of dream that you never achieve or that feels out of reach. In terms of other goals, that's one of my goals. The other one's a revenue goal, which I'm not going to say specifically what that is just for personal reasons, but obviously trying to achieve higher revenue in the company than I did last year. And then my third goal is like kind of a health goal, I guess. I want to run 10Ks by the end of the year. So I used to run.
You'll be able to do that.
And I don't think that's not a crazy goal for a lot of people. Some people might think that's kind of really easy, but I used to run quite a lot. But I haven't recently, and I need to get back into it. So that's one of my habits that I want to form over the next year.
It's not even like it won't be a difficult goal. Like you could train up and do that in like a month, but it's more of like a discipline goal,
Yeah.
I want to do this. It's more about the discipline aspect of it than the physical challenge, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Very good. Well, I hope you achieve your goals in 2021. I'd like to hear as well if you guys been working on goals for 2021, head over to the YouTube version of the podcast and let us know what you're kind of aiming for this year. It'd be really interesting to hear from you guys. But with that said, I think we should probably hop into our first news story, the big news story of the week, which is actually only kind of popping up today. It's happened today when we're recording this podcast. So, of course, we know that over in the US, Georgia went to the voting booths for the Senate, for a couple of Senate positions. And both of them seem to have been won by the Democrats, which is actually a pretty big deal because it flips the Senate from red to blue. So that would mean that the presidency is blue, the House of Reps is blue, and the Senate is blue as well. So Democrats are all over it. But,
oh boy, that's either a really good thing if you are going to like their policies, or it's a terrible thing when you have one party that has complete control to basically pass whatever they want. There's obviously...
And it depends which side of the fence you sit.
Exactly. I mean, if you think they're going to do good things, then that's great. They'll be able to do them quite quickly. If you don't think they're going to do good things, then you would probably prefer the House of Reps to be Democrat and the Senate to be Republican. So there's a bit of back and forth and negotiation, but it's certainly going to make the next couple of years very, very interesting.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing I'm looking forward to is that it will be good for them not have to go back and forth so much over providing relief, kind of
like stimulus.
Stimulus relief kind of packages for people that desperately need it. Because that's what everyone's been getting so sick of, is there are these people in America that are really having a tough time of it. And both sides of the equation, the Republicans and the Democrats, they want to get these relief stimulus packages to help people that are really struggling. However, they keep running into roadblocks because they can't necessarily agree. And if they can't agree, then it just doesn't go through, because we had, what was it? The House was blue and the Senate was red. So
Yes.
So nothing really got through. So, I mean, the ultimate losers are the American public in that instance, because there are people that are really doing it tough and they don't get what they need because of political factors and political, just argument, arguing with each other, I suppose. So, but yeah, I'll read what it says here. It says, the Democrats have won the balance of power in the US Senate after winning 2 runoff elections in the state of Georgia. John Ossoff, 33, has now been projected as the winner of the second runoff election against incumbent Republican Senator David Perdue by multiple US news networks, including the Associated Press. He currently has a lead of about 25,000 votes. Fellow Democrat Raphael Warnock defeated Republican Senator Kelly, Loeffler in the other Senate election in Georgia yesterday. It means the Democrats and Republicans both have 50 senators for the next 2 years, giving incoming Vice President Kamala Harris the tie-breaking vote.
Right.
His win was announced as this is the other half of the story which we need to talk about. His win was announced as rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol in Washington, forcing members of the House of Representatives and the Senate to flee wearing gas masks.
Jesus.
So essentially just a lot of pro-Trump supporters just stormed the Capitol building, which is ridiculous.
Wow.
And caused quite a ruckus. Which obviously is not a good thing. President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President Mike Pence have strongly condemned the violence and urged the mob to go home. President Donald Trump has tweeted false claims about President Donald Trump has tweeted false claims the election was stolen from him and told the rioters, "We love you and go home in peace." Yeah, it tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. I've heard bits and pieces of this. I haven't really had the time to kind of sit down and go through all of it. But I think someone died in the riots as well.
Someone got shot in the chest.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think anybody knows the circumstances of that as so far, because, it's just kind of happened. But it certainly makes you feel very uneasy when stuff like this is happening. The other thing to mention is that, so both have 50 senators, and then of course the Democrats get as the vice president, they get their tie-breaking vote, but it is still very, very close. Like that is very different from a Senate that went completely Democrat, for example, because there will be certain issues where Democrats will vote with Republicans, or Republicans will, or like a couple of them will vote with Democrats. It's not as if, they never vote. They always vote the exact same way. I don't know the numbers
on that. Yeah.
But it does happen. So the fact that it's close is probably a good thing, I think.
Right.
Again, it kind of goes back to what we were saying before. If you think they're going to do a lot of good things, you'd probably want it to be more Democrat. But it is kind of what it is. What happened with what happened on Twitter? Didn't Trump got a timeout or something? He got a...
Well, this is picking up on another article now. His Twitter account has been blocked for 12 hours because he continued to post. I'll just read it here. As Donald Trump again repeated baseless claims of election fraud, Twitter blocked retweets and likes on Mr. Trump's video tweet due to a risk of violence. Later removing it along with a later tweet of Mr. Trump's that again made the same claim. So apparently he's been blocked on YouTube, and he's been blocked on Twitter, and he's been blocked somewhere else that I can't remember. Twitter said the following: as a result of the unprecedented and ongoing violent situation in Washington, D.C., we have required the removal of 3 Donald Trump tweets that were posted earlier today for repeated and severe violations of our civic integrity policy. This means the account of Donald Trump will be locked for 12 hours following the removal of these tweets. If the tweets are not removed, the account will remain locked. Future violations of the Twitter rules, including our civic integrity or violent threats policies, will result in permanent suspension of Donald Trump's Twitter account.
Wow.
There you go.
What did he say? What could he have said?
I think this is in relation to, I think he posted a short video where he was saying, the election, as we know, the election has been stolen from us and people are standing up for that and everybody needs to, peacefully go home, but we're proud of you, that kind of stuff. It's just ridiculous. But I think it's just the fact, I think that Twitter are just getting so over the fact that he keeps, in every single thing he says, he keeps saying the election's stolen from us. I mean, yeah, talk about a sore loser. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he's entitled to his opinion, but the facts just don't kind of...
He clearly doesn't care about his legacy.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, if you're someone that, does care about your legacy, there's a certain point at which you do swallow your pride, stand up and say, you know what, be a gracious loser. I lost, congratulations to the opposing party or to whatever, Joe Biden. But, I mean, anything he does from now is just... I mean, for his loyal followers, it won't ruin his legacy. But I mean, for everybody else, the vast majority of people that live on this planet, I mean, it just destroys his rep. Not that he had much of a rep to begin with.
That is true.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's basically all we've got to talk about at the moment. I suppose there'll be more stuff coming out. Maybe tonight and tomorrow and on Saturday when this podcast comes out. But overall, I think the main thing to take away from it, from an investing and stock market point of view, is that it seems like the Democrats now have total control. Presidency, House of Reps, Senate. So essentially that'll mean that whatever they want to push, they'll be able to get it through, you would imagine, with much greater ease than trying to back and forth with the Republicans to cut some sort of, or to come to some sort of agreement with each other. They don't necessarily have to do that now.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can really do whatever they want.
Here comes the higher corporate tax rate.
Yeah, essentially, alongside everything. But I mean, there's always going to be, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you sit on, there's going to be positives and negatives that they'll push through. Like they'll push through, some higher tax rates, which affect businesses that we invest in. But, they'll also, from my point of view, they're also pushing big on climate change measures, which obviously I'm really happy about. So it just depends on what side of the fence you sit on various issues. But undoubtedly, there's going to be some stuff from each side that you applaud and some stuff which you disagree with. And that's why I get really surprised why people say, yeah, I'm a Democrat, or yeah, I'm a Republican, or, in Australia, yeah, I'm Labor, yeah, I'm Liberal. It shouldn't be a case of that. It should just be a case of, work your way through the policies and the facts that you're presented with from both sides of the equation and then vote accordingly.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty strange if your true personal values was perfectly aligned with one party. I don't think many people are like that. I find that I have values that fall on both sides a lot of the time. So I don't really find myself calling myself, in one direction or the other. But yeah, I think people should just look to their personal values more rather than supporting, one side just for the sake of supporting one side. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Right. Should we leave that one there?
Yeah, we can,
man.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, when we talk about politics, it's always the most bizarre things. Like, it's just surprising. How does this stuff happen in the world? Like, how does the result of, a Senate runoff election in Georgia have angry Trump protesters storming into the Capitol building? It's just ridiculous. Anyway.
Yeah. Very, very weird.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah. So we've got a little bit more Trump news. So
okay.
Of course
let's get it all out of the way.
Yes, of course. So the Trump administration is still in power. So they're still making decisions at the moment. And they've made a couple of decisions that will impact people who are looking at investments or have investments in Chinese businesses or Chinese stocks. So most recently, there's a couple of parts to this story. The first is that on Tuesday, I think it was, they banned transactions with 8 Chinese payment apps. So basically, the ban prevents any US transactions through these 8 selected apps. And there's two apps in there that are most prominent. One is Alipay, which is, of course, I think it's owned by the Ant. Is it Ant Group or something like that? That was founded by Jack Ma, who also founded Alibaba, of course.
Alibaba.
And Tencent and some of their apps. So obviously a lot of transactions are done even in the US using those apps. They're kind of like PayPal alternatives. So they kind of act as digital wallets. That's kind of how that functions. But they are banned as of right now.
Bang. See you later.
So that's another kind of big move, I guess, that the Trump administration is doing in this unending battle against China, as it seems. It's been going on for a while now. When did the tariffs come into place? 2018?
A couple of years ago.
Start of 2018, I think.
Couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what we were talking about all through the kind of middle period of Trump's presidency is all about the China trade war. Remember when we'd talk about that every week?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad we don't anymore, but it's kind of still going on in the background, just in various, like obviously now it's just a more direct, okay, we're just going to ban your payment apps or, we're going to ban TikTok or something like that,
Yeah, pretty much. It's very, very strange. And this one will surprise you. So the Trump administration is also considering banning US investment, specifically in Alibaba and Tencent, which is a huge move if they decide to do that, because what it would actually mean is anyone in the US, whether you're an individual or a company holding shares in those businesses, they would be forced to unwind their positions, which is significant. I don't know what level of US investment there are in those businesses, but I would guess it would be very, 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 very significant. There would be a lot of US businesses and investment funds, individuals that hold investment in those companies. So for that to be a potential outcome that's happening over the next couple of weeks, I guess. But
imagine... Yeah. I was just going to say, imagine if they did that. I mean, that's not really being mean to China. That's like singling out like a couple of publicly traded companies. I mean, that's really just being really mean to the publicly traded companies.
Yeah, anyway. It is. It's very, very strange. Obviously, I
suppose China cares a lot about those companies, but I mean, come on.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just a weird kind of power move that doesn't really make any sense if you look at, historical US values of, free market economy and individuals can choose where they want to invest their money and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I reckon.
It doesn't really line up with that. So that's kind of where I sit with it. The other thing to consider is whether this is even a long-term concern, because of course, Trump's administration is about to expire in 2 weeks or so?
13 days.
13 days. So less than 2 weeks, which means, of course, then the Biden government will be taking over. And as we just spoke about before, they will probably have a not too difficult time putting through whatever they need to get through. So any of these last minute changes by the Trump administration could, of course, just be reversed theoretically. In a couple of weeks' time. But it's certainly concerning if you're invested in Alibaba and Tencent, because you would imagine even if this went through and it was reversed later at some point, just that going through would cause a significant sell down in the shares of those businesses. So it would have a significant impact. So
I wonder, do you reckon they would ban any entity in the US having any ownership stake, or do you reckon they would ban any new investment from the US? So if you already have your stake, they probably just ban, like if you had it, you'd have to sell it, but that would be crazy.
Yes.
Imagine you being forced to sell, say, I don't know, like you own shares in like Facebook, right?
Yep.
So imagine the Australian government forces you tomorrow to sell your shares in Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing because you're probably up quite substantially. But imagine if you're like down. Imagine if you're down substantially and then you're forced to take an L.
Well, I'm up now, but the moment they announce that, it could change, right? Like
it could, yeah.
And especially when you're talking about the US investment in Alibaba and Tencent, two really big Chinese companies, you would imagine that on the announcement, there would be a significant sell-off. So if you're not sitting on this like immediately as soon as it happens, your position could change dramatically. You might be up a lot on Alibaba or Tencent, and then you could be down. But it would be a very strange move. The article that I was reading was suggesting that individuals would have to unwind their position so that the ban is actually banning investment, not new investment, if that makes sense. But I guess we'll kind of see what happens, whether that's just a threat or whether it will materialize into anything. I don't know. But yeah.
There you go. Jeez, I've not heard of anything like that before. That's quite strange, but there you go. We'll have to see what happens. But yeah, I don't think it would matter because what you say, Biden will probably just flip it over. Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about something else strange that's happening over the past.
How about we talk about Bitcoin then?
Let's do it. What's happening with Bitcoin?
Have you seen? I kind of stopped paying attention to Bitcoin over the last couple of weeks, and I was just reading something about it today, and I looked at the price. The current price of Bitcoin is 47,800 Australian dollars.
That's crazy. When did you write that in, by the way? Because it's actually higher than that now, and it has not been a lot.
I wrote it.
Has not been a long time.
3 hours ago?
Yeah.
What is it now?
It's now 48,135. So
Holy
up another
smokes.
300. About $300.
A little bit more. Yeah. That's insane. I mean, I looked at the 1 month chart, and at 1 month it's up 82%. I mean, what the heck?
Yeah.
What the heck? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's gone insane.
I mean, far out. Imagine if, like, I don't know, gold or oil or something just went up like that. It would be just insane. That's right. Earlier on today, I'm starting to see these articles on, reputable news sites, which is like, it's titled "Expert Reveals When You Should Buy Bitcoin." It's like those headlines are such a load of crap. So I decided to click on it and just read through like what they had to say. Because okay, expert reveals when you should buy Bitcoin. All right, so tell me, in your expert opinion, when should I buy Bitcoin? Hey,
tell us.
Yeah. Very strangely, in this article, there was no mention of intrinsic value.
What?
Found that very strange because normally when I think about buying something, the price I'm going to buy it at has a direct relation to what the intrinsic value of that asset is. So I was very surprised to see no mention of intrinsic value in this article saying expert reveals when you should buy Bitcoin. In fact, according to the article, I found this. I don't know if you knew this, but apparently we're going to see Bitcoin pull back to the $20,000 range,
right? Okay,
or potentially back to the $10,000 range. But it's still one to watch for the long term. Apparently, in the long term, the outlook is quite constructive for Bitcoin. Did you know that?
It's very constructive. Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, it's a very constructive future. Yes. They're going to start. They're going to start a construction company with Bitcoin. It's a very constructive future. But the same article also notes that search trends for Bitcoin are only starting to rise, still only a fraction of what they were at the peak of the 2017 high, implying we are only at the beginning of the bull run. By the way, that is a direct quote from this article.
Wow.
That's not me just making stuff up.
Jeez.
Which, I actually didn't realize this. This article taught me something quite profound about investing. I didn't realize that the amount of Google searches was the key metric that would predict asset appreciation.
Wow, didn't you know that? So haven't you heard that? Haven't you heard that famous Warren Buffett quote? The value of a business is the sum of search trends from now until Judgment Day, or something like that. Is that how it goes?
Oh gosh, starting 2021 with a bang. Yeah, it got me thinking, why don't all public companies worldwide start their 10Qs by quoting the number of Google searches of their company in the quarter? Why don't they do that? It seems like it's the number one metric we need to know as investors. But no, definitely the outlook for Bitcoin over the next little while is strong because search trends for Bitcoin are only starting to rise.
How could you know that they're just starting to rise?
Oh, I don't know.
Like,
Maybe somebody can track search trends. Can't you? Isn't that trackable? I don't know.
Yeah, but how do you know it's gonna, like, it's only at the beginning? Isn't that, like, to me, that's the same as being like the price for Bitcoin is only just starting to rise. Like,
I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying. You can't predict whether that's, who knows? Tomorrow they could have half the search volume for Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's very strange.
No, crazy. But hey, we live in a crazy time, Hamish Hodder, especially when it comes to financial markets. We live in a bizarre time. It kind of makes me think, like, imagine if Benjamin Graham was alive right now and seeing what was happening in the world right now. Like, what would he think? The daddy, the grandfather of value investing, what would he think when he sees something like Bitcoin at, $50,000 and the stock market at these levels? What would he say?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'd have a YouTube channel and he'd be shilling Bitcoin.
I'd follow his YouTube channel.
I would too.
Definitely.
That would have been great.
His, I don't know, his strategy, I definitely like. I know that Ben Graham's like the founder of value investing, kind of wrote the first book, I guess, Security Analysis, that really went into the details. But I much prefer how Warren Buffett changed value investing. I really don't like the whole cigar butt strategy that Ben Graham was so keen on. I much prefer Warren Buffett's take on value investing, personally.
Yeah, I think that strategy is probably not as applicable today, where there's so many more people looking at investments and there's so much more data available for businesses.
Yeah, right.
I think there was probably far more businesses that were just kind of completely forgotten by investors and therefore were trading at really, really low discounts compared to their assets. That was probably very, very common when you had to physically look through thousands and thousands of pages of different stocks and different businesses.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think it makes more sense to look at quality businesses that give you confidence that they'll be around over the long term. I think that's probably the way to go with what we've want today.
Yeah, good point that it is a different world to what it was back then in terms of access to information.
Yeah.
You probably did. Yeah, you probably did want to make sure you could only buy, the company for its, assets, just in case you didn't have the information that proved you wrong, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, should we leave Bitcoin? I've had enough talking about Bitcoin. I don't want to hear about it ever again.
Yeah, it just keeps coming
but
back.
I think we will.
I thought we were done in 2017. I was happy. I thought it was over. I thought it
was over too.
Well, we'll see what happens. It
crashed like 80-90%, didn't it?
Yeah. 80% or something like that.
I think so. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens this time.
Imagine if it crashed 80% again from this higher value. Whew, ouch. Cop that. That would hurt.
That would hurt. What would that be down to? 10,000 Australian?
Yeah. Imagine if you bought in at imagine if you bought in at 50,000 and copped a exit at 10,000. Oh, ouch. Yeah. Well, I guess it's still the same. It's still 80%, but
True. All right.
Anyway,
should we talk about?
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's talk about Tesla. There's a little bit of news, nothing crazy yet.
What's going on?
So they announced their deliveries, which of course they do. They do a little bit before they release their actual quarterly results. Right? They haven't released their fourth quarter 2020 results yet. I don't even think there's a date for it yet.
It'd probably been a month.
Yeah.
Because they keep very close track of their deliveries. So they can essentially, as soon as the quarter's over, they can release that number.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because they know exactly how many cars they've been delivering because they've been delivering them. Whereas I think the accounting and the financials take a little bit longer to prepare.
They're going to go through audits and make sure all the numbers are accurate and everything. There's quite a lot of legwork to go through that. Kind of like filling out when you get your tax return done. Like it takes a little bit of time. It doesn't happen instantly. No, but they announced their deliveries for the fourth quarter and then of course the full year, now that we have a full picture of the year. And they announced that throughout 2020 they delivered 499,550 cars, which represented a 36% increase in deliveries over 2019, where they delivered 367,500 vehicles. And I guess one of the major headlines out of this is that they pretty much hit their goal of achieving 500,000 car deliveries in 2020.
Yeah.
They were a little bit
Just
shy.
insane.
They didn't quite get there. But
round it up, give them the benefit.
Yeah.
Come on.
couldn't.
They had their factory shut down for 6 weeks at the beginning of the year. So
Nah, they didn't hit it. Bad management. Bad.
sell. But no, I mean, and the crazy thing is that there's a TV clip. I don't know if you've seen that TV clip of Elon Musk back in 2014, I think,
Right.
talking to a reporter. And the reporter's like, okay, yeah, but, some people are saying, you can deliver 100,000 cars in a couple of years' time. Like, what do you feel comfortable with predicting in the future? And this is, I think, back in 2014. Elon's like, I feel fairly confident predicting that Tesla will hit 500,000 vehicles produced in around 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just like absolutely matched up perfectly. So, so Twitter was having a field day with that little film.
That's
clip.
amazing. I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen that yet, but that's amazing because I'm sure like a lot of claims that Elon had made at the time, a lot of people would have been like, yeah, right.
Yeah, good. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you sell 30,000 cars this year and you want to sell 500,000 in 2020. Psh, yeah, right.
Oh dear. No, but in terms of, I guess, some specific breakdown, they sold or delivered, I should say, 57,000 Model S's and Model X's, and then 442,500 Model 3 and Model Ys. So,
wow. Insane.
The majority coming from the Model 3s and the Ys, and I guess the majority, they don't break out, do they? Whether they...
No, they don't. They keep it locked together.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah.
But
I don't think they want to give away those numbers just in case short term, what if Model 3 doesn't go up for a quarter, but Model Y is carrying the shit. I don't think they want to have to deal with the short term nonsense that they've had to deal with in the past. So they just add them together. And I guess it makes sense. Like the grouping makes sense. The S and the X, they are the premium, very expensive luxury cars. And then the 3 and the Y are the mass market cars.
Yep.
So it makes sense. But the thing that really gets me going, it gets me excited about the company for next year is that they're predicting they could sell or they could manufacture up to 1 million cars in 2021, sorry.
Wow.
Just because of all of the, we've got all the stuff that's going on in China. They're going to continue, they're just starting Model Y deliveries in China now.
Yeah.
And we've got potentially we'll get the Berlin Gigafactory coming online, and we'll get potentially the Austin Gigafactory coming online as well, which is going to be making the Cybertrucks. So even if it doesn't happen in 2021, 2022, 2023, it's just going to be insane. I mean, remember they've got 500,000 Cybertruck orders that they have to fulfill. That's just waiting. They're just waiting there, waiting until Tesla can manufacture them.
Yeah.
So there's so much for this company to do over the next few years.
Definitely.
Even forgetting about the stock market, forgetting about all that we kind of generally talk about on the show. I'm just excited from just an innovation and technology and even climate change kind of standpoint. It's just great to see a company like this succeed.
Yeah.
I like it. I want to see them succeed well into the future.
Yeah. Hopefully they raise more shares. That's something I would like to see. Take advantage of this outrageous stock price that you've been gifted that most businesses never get because they don't fall into that category of high growth and they've got the God is running it. The Elon Musk God is running it. And it kind of falls into a nice category of business that doesn't come around very often, which everyone is very confident will succeed. And its stock price was up, I think it was 700% in 2020. Take advantage of that and do what I think it was Michael Burry, what he said.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Sell a lot of stock.
Yeah, Michael Burry was saying you should just raise 25% more shares and you would just raise so much money and there's clearly an appetite for it And you would, I think, what was his wording? Like you would have unmatched optionality. Like you'd be able to do whatever you wanted. That would just silence everybody else because you've just got the money to just go for it.
Yeah.
So, but I don't really know. There's a case to be made for and against. Obviously, you are diluting your shareholders in the process of doing that. And Elon's gone on the record before and said, look, we're spending money as fast as we can responsibly. Like it's not like we are limiting our growth right now because, we don't have enough money. He's gone on the record saying that that's not the case. So, there's a case to be made where it's like, okay, well, maybe you shouldn't raise money if you don't have a project to put that money towards and when your growth isn't being limited because you don't have enough money, I suppose. But
yeah, I guess there is a limit on how fast you can grow at the end of the day. You can't just, if you keep just throwing more and more money at it, at a certain point, you just become less efficient.
Exactly.
And you might grow at a higher rate, but you might make more mistakes and you might not have the outlook that or the vision that Musk had for the company, or there could be it's not just as simple as more money equals faster growth or something like that.
But it certainly would silence the crowd if they just raised a whole heap of money, all of the naysayers, then it'd be like, well, they've got the cash to do whatever they want now.
Yeah. Imagine they just raise like $100 billion.
Holy smoke. What the heck? That'd be crazy.
They just sell 15% of their shares, $100 billion.
Announce like 10 new gigafactories.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
That would be insane.
Would be crazy. Yeah. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens with Tesla this year.
Yeah.
I mean, the 500,000 cars that they got, that should lead to some pretty darn positive Q4 results. So I'll be watching Tesla with interest when their financial results do come out for Q4 because they certainly did very well. Yeah,
and I'm sure we're going to cover a lot of Q4 earnings as they'll come out probably starting in about a month, I think. 1 to 2 months, we'll be seeing a lot of quarterly earnings, and that's what we'll be doing on the podcast around that time.
I'm keen. Yeah. 2021, hope it's a good year for interesting news and interesting revelations with public companies.
I hope so too.
Give us something to talk about. Anyway, should we move on to a bit of Q&A? Should we do 1 or 2 Q&A questions? What time you got to get out of here? You got a little bit, or are you running out of time?
We can do one. Let's do one Q&A. Let's do one.
All right, 1 Q&A for this week. Conscious of the time, you probably got to get out of here.
Let's do this.
All right, you choose. All right, go for it.
When you are ready to buy a stock, how do you go in? Do you go all in at once, or do you do tranches? Do you use Phil Town's 3 tools, the MACD, the moving averages, and the stochastics at all? So there's a few questions
I do have a bit of a squiz at the MACD, the moving average, the stochastics. I mean, to be honest, I'm more interested in margin of safety. So as long as I've got margin of safety, I really don't care. Like, I'll just buy. In terms of going all in at once, that's something I don't do. I don't really have. I know Phil Town talks about some sort of formula as to how to get into a stock, but I can't remember exactly what it is. But I do kind of follow that tranche method where I'll put, if it hits a margin of safety, I'm not hesitant. I'll definitely get in, but I won't say I wanted to put, $20,000 into a stock or something like that. If it hits margin of safety, I'm not going to go, bang, put in 20 grand, done.
Yeah.
And then just leave it. Depending, I mean, I've really got no real hard rules on how I do this, but I might put in, say, half of that and then see what happens to the stock. And then if it goes down even more, I'll put in maybe another 5,000, then watch what happens from there. If it goes down a fair bit more, I'll put in the other 5,000. But I don't know. Do you have any kind of hard rules? I imagine you also follow the tranche method. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't think I have really, really strict rules, kind of just guidelines, I guess. But I have a sort of a range of models. So I kind of end up with a range when I calculate intrinsic value. I end up with a range of where I think it sits, not one specific number. So when the stock's price enters that range with the margin of safety and all of that taken into account, I'll start to put some money in, but I wouldn't be going full out are putting a lot of money in or filling out that position completely until or if the stock's price was down the bottom of that range, if that makes sense. So I'd start small at the top of the range. If it continues to fall, I'll buy more. But I'm not going heavy into it until it gets down to the lower, more confident models where the growth for the company doesn't need to be as high for me to achieve the return I'm looking for. In terms of the technical indicators, MACD, stochastics, I don't look at them at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, they're not super useful for long-term investors. I kind of still just like to look at them to see what the trend of the big money is, if it's flowing in or out. But yeah, you don't need to use them as a long-term investor. Definitely not. But yeah, all right. I think that's where we'll leave it today. Yeah. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening. Welcome to this is like season 3 of the Young Investors Podcast.
Season
2021. This is our 3rd year of doing it, I guess, now.
My goodness.
Which is pretty exciting. Make sure if you have a question, if you have a question or a discussion topic for us for the podcast or for the Q&A section, then head over to the YouTube version of the podcast. You can follow us, just type into YouTube, just the Young Investors Podcast. Go to the most recent upload and feel free to leave your question there or discussion topic or whatever. But that will just about do us for today. We should say, if you do enjoy the podcast as well and you want to help us out, you've been maybe following it for a while, enjoy what we do, then feel free to leave a review of the podcast wherever you listen to it. We'd super appreciate it. That'd help us out. But yeah, that will just about do us for today. Thanks very much for listening, guys. Thanks, Hamish, for chatting. Enjoy your golf this afternoon.
I will. My afternoon off.
And sorry.
My afternoon off.
Yeah, exactly right. Go and enjoy. Hit a hole in one for us. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.